Who knows? It may be an abbreviated news session on today's particular day and all in that way, but we're going to see what's going on in the world. One thing that's going on is air quality. That's right. Air quality is a concern throughout the area, and definitely people are looking at that as the wildfires are going in the Northeast and in Canada, and people are paying attention to that air quality. Definitely, it is impacting people in New York, in North Carolina, and in a number of other places as well. And I just recently learned that on tomorrow in Rocky Mount, where my mom is located at, that there will be a visit from none other than President Biden, and I believe Jill Biden will be making an appearance as well. And so that is something that is going on in the world. And for those of you that are into religious leaders, a major religious leader has passed away. That's right, Pat Robertson, who definitely gave the Christian conservatives clout, is passed away at the age of 93. So that is something that people may have some thoughts about as well. And of course, Russian shootings at rescuers in flooded areas in following the dam collapse, according to what Zelensky is saying. And the Pope's night went well in the hospital after he had abdominal surgery, according to the Vatican, and all in that space. So, like I said, there's all kinds of things going on in the world. And of course, that air quality issue is something that is going on and right here in Durham, North Carolina. And by the way, y'all are probably going like he's in a different location. Y'all know sometimes I come at y'all from the Hayti Heritage Center, and they have actually got a conference going on of women leaders from throughout the country. I know some of them are from Dallas, DC, and other parts of the world as well. So definitely I had to come in here and be one of those that opened up the building so the ladies could definitely have that conversation and have that thing going on in their space as well. So that is something that's going on here at the center and all along those lines. So I'm going to bring in Lee Newton Rhodes. I see we've also got Jatovi here as well. And of course, I do see that the Durham leaders are, meaning here in Durham, North Carolina, are looking at a pay raise for first responders in all in that space. They're also looking at a new 37-acre sports center. So who knows, maybe that's something that will go on and will be a positive thing in this area. I know that the Durham Bulls recently opened a kind of like a side stadium and all in the along those ways. And I forgot the name of it. I think it's almost like a Field of Dreams kind of thing. But Jatovi can tell us more about that, as I know that that is already there and all in that space. So, like I said, we'll bring in Lee Newton Rhodes and bring in some of the others as well. But I did see some of the items that I talked about in the news and some of those quick items. I did learn that, like I said, that Mr. Biden and Jill Biden will be making an appearance in Rocky Mountain. That is the home area of my mom and all of that. I don't know that she'll be going, even though she was involved in the Democratic Party and actually ran for Secretary of State several years back and all along those lines. As a matter of fact, I think the current Secretary of State won in that year and has had the office ever since. So definitely that's something that I know people talk about is how long to somebody stay in the office. But Elaine Marshall has been our Secretary of State for more than a decade. So she's definitely been in there for a minute, and she beat mom in a runoff sometime back and all in that space. And then Elaine beat Richard Petty, the great automobile racer, and has been pretty much in that job ever since. So who knows, there might be hope even for you that if you get to be president, maybe you'll change the rules and become president for 15 or 20 years or however long that space
Mark,
goes.
I got a comment for you and a question. I want to
Yes.
comment on a more humorous side. They need a man to open up the ladies' convention. They couldn't get a woman to do that. I know it's a man's job. On a more serious note, all the smoke coming that's affecting so much of the United States, the eastern seaboard, and I guess even more coming down from Canada. Does this mean all our climate change, our climate efforts that we're trying to reduce pollution, to go to EV vehicles and whatever else is all for naught? Because look what can happen. This must erase years, if not decades, of efforts to reduce carbon dioxide and monoxide and whatever else. Am I
Well,
wrong?
you may have a point there. I know that there was efforts, and I'm not sure what was going on. I know it's wildfires that were taking place, but let's bring in Sasha. Maybe he's got some thoughts since he's over there in Canada, and I don't know what the air quality is like over there in his part of Canada. But yeah, it's definitely impacting folks and impacting how folks are thinking about these wildfires and all along those lines. But it'll be interesting, and I know people are definitely interested in climate change. So I'll also bring in Jatovi as well, but I don't know that it would necessarily stop the concern that people have and the need for more efficient kind of cars and either in factories and things along those lines. But definitely the wildfires have impacted us here. They've impacted the ones that took place in California. They've impacted a number of other things. But Sasha, how is the air quality there in Canada? How are you doing with that air quality as one that is there in the Canadian area?
Yeah, in Toronto, you could definitely feel the smog and not really healthy air. It's nothing on a cosmic proportions that people would move elsewhere, evacuate their houses and apartments. Not on that level, but you definitely can feel and you can see sometimes smog and.
Sasha,
It affects some U.S. states,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Are they getting a handle on this? Are they able to control it, or it's just really just out of control still?
Listen, it's nothing unusual. So if you remember the almost every year the California fires or so on. Unfortunately, here we have a fact that because Quebec is just north of the state of New York, just north of it. I traveled just a few months ago. I drove from Toronto. I drove to Massachusetts, and I went on the way back through through New Hampshire to Maine and so on. And eventually, I ended up in Quebec. So Quebec is just north, and I think the atmospheric effect is that the smoke travels for some reason straight south. Toronto is not south of Quebec; it's just west of Quebec. So we are not affected as much as states, specifically New York State, because it's just. And by the way, New York, city of New York, is just the same distance from Montreal as Toronto, but Toronto is west of Montreal and New York is south of Montreal, but still the same distance. So, well, hopefully it will be handled in the next few days, maybe weeks.
Do they not have the ability to put these things out?
It's
I
hard to
mean, we try.
say. It's hard to say. Well, evidently, so far they don't have ability because if they would, they would have done it. But obviously, they don't have ability.
I mean,
So,
if we can put out a fire in a number of days or a week, how much control do we really have over the weather or the climate?
well, that's a combination of both. It's inability to do it in a short order, like to stop the fire. And then, second of all, it's unfortunate you cannot regulate which way the smoke will move, whether it's moving right now, appears to be south of where the fires are. Could it be directed in west or east or north? Um, I don't think I'm an expert. I'm not an expert in that field at all. So it's a nature, and unfortunately, we have to deal with that. If there is a possible help to distinguish extinguish these fires, I think Canadian government should apply for help to deal with that. If
Help?
it's
I mean, help from who? I mean, if they're the government.
well, maybe they don't have necessary equipment or know-how or both, and maybe U.S. can help. But I know that U.S. struggles with its own fires, specifically in California area,
Right.
going on for weeks, if not months. So I'm not so sure if there is available technology that will extinguish the fire in a shortest period of time. I'm not sure.
I'd be curious if there's anything that can be learned from one fire to the next, or nothing. In terms of deforestation policies or methods to try and isolate these fires when they do happen. I mean, you can't prevent them if it's man caused, someone dropping a cigarette or something like that. You can't stop that, but you can minimize it possibly.
Yeah, I agree. So we don't know what started that fire, and probably will never find out about that. Some human error could have been involved, most likely, but it doesn't make the present situation any easier for us to bear with. And unfortunately, if nothing will change very shortly, I think it will require some time until it will be gone. Hopefully, it will.
Yeah. Jatovi, yesterday in New York City, you could look up. The sky was clouded. Well, it wasn't clouded. There were no clouds in the sky, but you couldn't see the blue sky because of the smoke, and you couldn't even see the sun. How is it by you?
I mean, we still have air quality issues here in North Carolina. They put out warnings and so on and so forth. I mean, yeah, it's a bad thing. It's a similar thing to what happened. Remember the California wildfires? So the California wildfires were covering parts of other states as well. It's just the jet stream and the wind stuff. I mean, everything, just the way the weather goes, it just blows it, and you can't really control it. And so
they might not get the fire, but they're getting the effects of the smoke.
Yeah, and as he said earlier, yeah, I mean, it has a huge effect on global warming, but global warming also has an effect, or climate change has an effect on wildfires staying longer. So
how so?
So as think of it as an oven, or like you're starting a stove. It's easier to start when there are other cinders around and it's warm in that little, I guess, fireplace. You know how
Okay.
you're starting a fire, and if this side is warm, if the whole thing is warm, it's easy to start the fire and keep the fire going. If it gets really cold, it's hard to keep the fire going. So, or if it's cool, it's hard to keep the fire going. So the warmer our climate is, the easier it is for these wildfires to stay alive. So it's
And
harder to
Jacoby,
fight
along
against.
those same lines, I know that you've had the pleasure, because of the gaming world, of working with both police and firemen. So I just wondered if you can share with our audience your experiences and what it's like to have those people that you have known that have been in the fireman field. I'm actually hoping to invite some firemen on the show in the near future and everything. But I know that you've had the pleasure of working with them because of the cooperation that you had in the gaming industry. So I just wondered your thoughts around firemen in general.
Oh, I mean, they're good people. Both firemen, police officers, they're people. They're in a thankless job. Actually, police are in more of a thankless job than the firemen are.
I'm sorry. Why do you say thankless? I think we should all have gratitude. Why do you say thankless?
It's a position that, yes, should be appreciated more than it is. It's a thankless
100%.
job because of the attitudes and the views towards them,
Bye.
by individuals out there. I mean, from and some with good reason, some without, some just hearsay. But
How
yes,
could there be a good reason not to not have gratitude towards firemen? I don't get it.
no, I mean, that's both firemen. Say, for example, and I'm not trying to bring up bad. Well, we'll do it this way, so it's not going to spark any other conversations. Say you have a bad experience, or say a group of individuals have a bad experience with firemen. What's the first thing they're going to do? Is spread that all firemen are bad. So some could have had a bad experience with firemen, and there could be bad apples that have caused that. But the problem is that taints that name, and it becomes a generic thing. All
So you're
firemen.
talking about the dangers of stereotyping towards any group because of a personal experience, which is out of the norm. And I get that. And that's fair.
Yeah, and so that's what happens. And so, I mean, it's a thankless job because there are times when you don't realize that, the things that firemen do, or the things that police even do. And don't get me wrong, there are changes, and the fire department is there are less things that need to change. There are more things that they need help on and help with, which I think would be great to help the firemen in many different ways because they do such a great job. But in the police field, there are, 80, 90% of them phenomenal people. But then you got those bad apples. And there are actually a lot of bad apples that take advantage of their position and feel that power and utilize that power in the wrong way.
More so in the police department than the fire.
Yes. The fire department's not that way. The police department has that issue because the fire department is seen, it is a different pathway than the actual police department. And their experience, and actually the fire department's experience with the community is different than what the police department's experience with the community is. Even historically speaking, the police department, the police department's history is completely different than the fire department's history. There are problems again going to states that wanted to go to a paid fire department, and that creates a problem because then, okay, if I didn't pay my fire department bill, then
there are still cities like that where it's on a volunteer basis and you have to pay for the service. And if they get the call and they check and you didn't pay up, they're going to let it burn to the ground.
And that gives what? A bad name to the fire department because it should.
No, not really. If it's a prepaid service and you're paying for the service, why should you expect service? That with your car insurance.
Well, that's because of what the fireman job is.
Not in those neighborhoods. In New York City, the big cities, you're covered because you live there. You have a right, or not, you have an entitlement, I don't know what the word is, to call 911 and with an expectation that they're going to come and and help you out. But if you're in a city where it's on a volunteer basis or in a dues paid basis, like, you call AAA, you're not a member of AAA, they're going to say, sorry, we're not going to help you.
Yeah, but AAA is not saving a life.
We're not talking about saving lives over here. We're talking about saving buildings.
No, but that's what the firemen do. The firemen also save lives, and that's what I'm talking about.
I understand that, but if you call a plumber, electrician, and you didn't pay for the service ahead of time, they're not going to come.
That's not a good analogy.
Why is that not for a fire department where the firemen, it's a service that you paid for ahead of time?
Because the fire department saves lives. Are you saying that a fireman shouldn't attempt to save a life of a person?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in those parts of the United States or the world where it's on a prescription basis, what's the incentive for anyone to ever pay for the service?
But what I am saying is that it should not be a life-saving event should not be a paid service.
I get that, and I agree with you. Okay, but the reality is, in certain places, it is.
And that's what I'm saying. That's where a bad name comes into play. Because if you read in the newspaper, firemen let this man die.
No, we're not talking about lives over here. We're talking about property. As far as I know, I've never heard of it happening with a life. I've heard it happening with properties. They get there and say, sorry, we can't help you.
That's what I am talking about.
Do you know that that's actually happened with lives? That they got there and they say, sorry, we're not helping you because you didn't pay?
I remember there was an issue in, Tennessee, where they let animals die in a house or something like that because they didn't pay their dues.
First of all, I hear that animals are not people, but and my heart does go out for the animals. But what are they supposed to do?
Save the animals.
Oh, fine. So what are they supposed to do then? Why should anyone ever pay for the service then?
But that goes back to, should everything be for sale?
I understand what you're saying, and we can debate that. But if a community agrees that certain things should be on a paid service, subscription service, what are they supposed to do when someone says, you know what, I'm not paying for it? So let's say garbage pickup. There are a lot of neighborhoods, it's a subscription service. You pay for a garbage pickup, as opposed to big cities where it comes out of your real estate taxes or whatever funding method. So what are the people supposed to do? Sorry, you didn't pay for the garbage service. We're not picking up your garbage. You okay with that?
So, again, if lives are on the line, the firemen should handle that. When they don't, does that not give a bad taste in people's mouths?
We're not talking about lives now, because lives, I'm on board with you. Okay, I'm on board with you with lives.
Animals. If they
that's different now, but I'm asking you, a farmer who says, I'm not paying for the service for whatever reason, but I expect you to come and give me the same service as my neighbor who does. What are they supposed to do? Why should anyone ever pay?
And again, this all boils back to what I asked you. Should everything be for sale?
Other than enslaving people, everything is for sale. You can't force other people's behavior. That's called enslavement.
Should everything be for sale? Animals' lives, should those be where you should let them burn down if they don't pay a bill? Because then you're saying that these animals' lives really aren't that important. The money is.
Well, isn't that the owner of the animals who's making that decision? Saying, you know what, it's not that important to me if they burn.
Really.
So why not?
Because say the owner is out of the house and a fire sparks. Is
Okay.
the owner the one who said, okay, well, I'm sparking this fire to make this house burn? He's done everything he could to make the house safe. But
Except he didn't pay his subscription service.
Maybe he didn't have the money to pay. You're saying that because you're still pointing to the capitalist view that money.
No, I get that, Jacoby. You know what? I want the Wall Street Journal. I really would like it delivered to my house every day, but I'm not paying the subscription.
I can't.
Where can I get it?
Life is the same as the Wall Street
Where
Journal.
do we draw the line? Where do you want to draw the line then?
Life saving is where do you draw the line?
Okay, okay. If that's the case,
and that's including animals.
Let's say I have a fish tank with goldfish in it. Are they included?
You're making all these hyperbolics. Yes.
No, I'm not. You said an animal's life.
You're having all these hyperbolics about all these. Oh, a hamster. What's next? I'm a lizard fan. Oh, what's next? The snake. If those are important to you and they are lives that you're holding, why are they not? They are less important than money. You don't have the amount. So, and that gets back to again. Everything can't be for sale. Everything can't be for sale. And once you put everything for sale, now we're at this argument. Now, let me nitpick. Your dog is more important than the lizard. I'm a lizard guy. I love my lizards. Oh, I love my snakes.
I don't know about lizards. Iguanas I can go for.
But that's what I'm saying. Your iguana is not as important as this cat over here.
Oh, come on. They're cute. You know that. You know they're a cute animal.
But then you're getting back to, okay, where do you draw the line because of the money?
So where do you draw the line then when people make contracts and one party says, you know what, I'm not paying, but I need the service.
Not everything can be for sale. And that's our problem with our society is we make everything for sale. We make, this is why our healthcare system shoots out of the way because of capitalism.
Jacoby, what's one of the most important things we need on a daily basis? Food, right? Food's very important.
Food.
Okay, so actually, food's for sale.
Actually, air.
Okay. You don't charge for air. You can just get air by walking out. Except for now, it's not so healthy. Okay, in general, air is free and it's healthy and it's clean. Okay, and water also to a certain extent. But food's very important.
Hold on.
You can't walk into a store or a restaurant and say, you know what, I'm hungry. Feed me.
Hold on. Water is for sale. Air, because they're taking away the Clean Water and the Clean Air Act, or the GOP is attacking those, they're making those even less safe. So, again, why is it less safe? Because the gas industry and all these other industries see that they can pollute, and hey, we're gonna fight against global warming and all these other things because I can make more money doing this. So air and water is for sale.
A dirty little secret: if you go to amusement parks, and you ask for water, they do give it to you for free. Not soda and stuff like that, but water they will give you for free. All these amusement parks.
Bottled water now. They even take away them water fountains.
Yeah. So anyway, so food is very important, but you can't walk into a restaurant and say, give me free food.
You're making a poor analogy.
Why?
You're making a poor analogy.
Because you don't like it?
Because again, life-saving events.
I'm starving to death.
Hold on. So are you okay with a volunteer police department that you have to pay dues into a police department? So if you don't pay your dues and somebody's robbing your house, you shouldn't get any service?
Do you know the dirty little secret? Police have no obligation to respond and to protect you. If they fail to, you have no recourse. They have no obligation. I'm just telling you a fact. Police have no obligation to protect people.
Are you saying that police, if my neighbor pays a police bill and you don't, if somebody robs my house and the police come and they see somebody robbing your house, they just let them rob it? Is that fair? Is that the way?
And to your point, as far as I know, while we do have volunteer fire departments and fire departments by subscription, I have no knowledge of any police department like that.
So getting back to my point.
So it's a theoretical question that does not exist in this world, as far as I
Same
know.
thing with your theoretical questions about the whole animals and drawing the line. What I'm saying is
No,
again,
that's because animals are property.
so again, it gets back to the bad taste and the bad view of the fire department. Those are things.
No, I'm not talking about morals, because in terms of bad taste and morals, I'm on board with you. They should do it for free as a charity service. I got that. I agree with you.
So that's where we started the discussion, where you had asked about, how do you have a bad or a real bad taste or get a bad view?
No, I understand that. But if you have this person says, you know what, last time I didn't pay and they came and they did it. The second time they came and they did it. After a while, they're going to stop. They're going to stop coming.
How do you help those that can't pay?
Lee, back up for a second. I got to ask you a question. You said animals are property and everything, because I know
as far as I know, they're not people.
They are property, but I don't know that pets are necessarily property. I can see cattle being property, but I don't know that all pets are necessarily property. I could be wrong, but like I said, because when you said that, I was going like,
what are the choices, Mark?
Are considered property.
What are the choices? They're not people.
No, they're not people. They're pets.
I know, I understand that, but people own them, and you could sell them. You could trade them.
So Lee, just getting back to the original question, because I mean, the property discussion around animals and the view around animals are different. The view around animals, yes, they're people. Regardless of how we want to argue and try and break it down to a semantic argument, they're viewed as people. If you have a pet, that is your best friend, be it a cat, be it a dog.
I get all that. There's an emotional attachment. I get all that. I've had pets.
So they are viewed as people. But on top of that, again,
as people or as living things, not as people. There's a difference.
To many, they're viewed as people.
I don't get that. If your son passes away and your dog passes away, you're going to view those as equal?
Yes, many people do.
But then I think you got a problem. It's not a person.
Not at all.
You got people that dress up their cats and their dogs. I mean,
I get that, Mark, and I question whatever.
No, but Lee, if you become emotionally attached to something and that becomes your best friend, so if your best friend, which many people consider a dog or a cat or their pet to be, is their best friend.
I get that. You can be very emotionally attached to an animal. I get that, and I have been. Okay, I get all that. And it's a tremendous trauma when that animal passes away. I get all that.
But the thing is,
it's different from a parent passing away or a loved one, a spouse.
No,
much different.
Is a loved one. When somebody
not at that level.
But you're telling everybody how they should feel because that's how you feel.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's a difference between a person and an animal. Period.
But hold on, Lee. Say, for example, I'm a single dad and my child has passed away and the only person in my house is my dog. And
I'm not saying dogs are not important. I'm not saying dogs are not therapeutic.
Let me finish that example. And that dog is the only person that I see as a friend. That dog passes away, I'm still going to feel just as emotional as my child passing away.
No, you will be heartbroken. I get all that, but it's not a person.
Lee, hold on. I'm telling you that's how I will feel. You're telling me that's how I shouldn't feel.
No, I'm not saying that you shouldn't how you're feeling. Your feelings are your feelings, and your feelings are true. I get all that, and I empathize with that. What I'm telling you, there's an inherent difference between a person and an animal. One second. And there's a difference between an animal and a plant. You're going to tell me there's, my tree in the backyard, it died. I'm heartbroken, okay? And I just can't get over it. You're going to say that's okay? It's like a person?
Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying real quick. Now, again, the comparison between a dog and a tree, if you are emotionally attached to something and how you feel with that remorse is how you feel. It's not how I feel towards that tree or how
I'm not saying you're not going to be sad and traumatized. I get all that.
No, but that's what you're telling me.
You're telling me the tree my great grandmother planted that died, and now I'm sad that it died.
If I feel that way, then instead of telling me you shouldn't feel that way because
No, I didn't. I never said about feelings. I'm sorry. If I said that, I apologize. I never said anything about feelings. I'm saying there's an inherent difference between a person, an animal, and a plant, and a rock. There's a difference between all those four categories. And I can explain them to you, but there's a difference between them. I'm not saying anything about feelings. Feelings are your feelings, and feelings are true. And feelings, you can't necessarily
leave it at that. Why can't you leave it at feelings are feelings and feelings are true? But you're telling me then, well, let me tell you that feelings are true, but you know that dog, that's really just a piece of property.
Hold on a second.
What's a plant and what's a rock?
Now,
Wait. Lee, listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying you just agreed that feelings are true. What I feel is the way I feel, right?
But feelings don't make it reality.
Wait. What I feel is true in terms of my feelings towards that dog. You're telling me those feelings are true. If I feel that that dog is a person to me, then it's true. It's a person to me. Correct?
No. Your feelings cannot change reality. I feel it's raining outside. It's not raining outside.
You literally just said if my feelings are true.
Feelings is different than reality. Mr. Jatovi, I feel like it's nighttime here in New York City. I can feel all I want. That doesn't change reality.
You're not listening, Lee. You're not listening. Now you're bringing up all these whataboutisms and that's these false.
No, this is reality. I feel like it's nighttime.
I'm telling you, we're not talking about a cardboard box. We're not talking about a tree outside.
Why not?
We're not talking about a plant. We're not talking about a light
bulb.
bulb. We're talking about a living thing that I have brought up from birth.
Granted.
You're talking about a thing that I have grown with as well as this.
Been there, done that.
Dog has
I know what you're talking about.
If I see this dog as a person to me, and this person passes away, this is a person who died that I have cared for all my life. You're telling me it's just a dog.
I didn't say just a dog.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I just said it's a dog. It's not a person. I got a question for Jatovi.
Hold on a second.
Do you know any woman who's had children? Do you know any woman in your life that's had children?
He's got children.
Okay, fine. Ask that woman if they have children and they have a pet. And theoretically, one of them had to die. They had to kill one, or by nature, one would die. Which one would they grieve over more?
It's not for me to decide. They'll grieve over either one if they're close to their
dog.
They'll
grieve over both of them. They'll grieve over both of them. They will grieve over both of them.
Yes.
But not the same.
It's not me telling them, well, you shouldn't grieve over that dog because that's just a dog. But I see how you.
Jatovi, are you a vegetarian?
No.
So you're cannibal. You eat people.
I don't know what your argument is now.
If you're saying animals are the same as people, you eat people.
You're not making any sense, Lee. You're trying to make some false argument and some.
Why is that false? You're putting them that they're equal.
Listen to what you're saying.
How can you eat a living thing?
Listen to what you're saying, and this is where the false equivalency and this all craziness that you're these poor arguments. If I have a dog as a pet, and I see that dog as a person, that dog passes away for me, not for you, for me. That dog is a person, and a person passed away in my life. For me, right? Not for you, for me. So if you are telling me that my feelings are true, that I should be able to grieve how I grieve.
I'm not talking about grieving. Grieving is real, and I'm on board with that.
Wait. Listen, I should grieve for that person how I grieve.
Granted.
So as an individual who's not in that relationship, if that were to happen to, say, Sasha had an animal and Sasha's animal passed away or Sasha's pet passed away, I can't go to Sasha and say, Sasha, that's just a dog, man. Why are you crying? No, I should I should empathize and
100%. I'm aboard with you on that one.
Sasha, then why are you telling me, well, it's just a dog?
Because I'm not saying it's just a dog. What I'm
That's
saying is
wrong.
it's not a person.
Hold on a
You're
second,
not
Lee.
listening.
Hold
You're
on a
not
second,
listening.
Let's hear
Lee.
what Mark has to say.
Hold on a second, Lee and Jacoby. I got a question.
Wait,
Is
before
actually
you go on, I just want to acknowledge Jacoby's passion and pushback. And I appreciate that. But go on, Mark.
No, my question was actually for Sasha because there is a major war going on in Ukraine, and I do know for a fact that there have been a lot of people that have been concerned about the animals that have been impacted as well. As a matter of fact, there have been entire rescue efforts on those animals because they were attached to the dogs and to the families that were going on. There have been a lot of Ukrainians that have had attachment to their cats, their dogs, their birds, whatever animal they had, and everything. And there has been efforts to rescue these animals. Is that a wrong effort by people? Because there are a lot of people that have been having efforts to save these animals that were impacted by the war. So, Sasha, what is your thoughts?
Well, it's a normal thing. You can only sympathize with people who are trying to help the animals, and not just their animals that they would have in their households, but all of them, and all people are trying to do that. In Russia, it's a different experience. In Russia, there are a lot of homeless dogs. So now there is a process of hunting all these dogs and train them to make raids on Ukrainian territory. So they put the detonators on this dog, so the dogs could maim Ukrainians by actually they have explosions in Ukrainian territory. So these dogs will die, obviously, but they will create a lot of harm to Ukrainian people. That's what Russia
Sasha,
is doing.
they're
Yes,
making animals into like suicide or homicide bombers.
that's correct.
How inhumane could you be? Like, to use
But
Jacoby's point.
Had this
I,
argument.
Yes.
that's what I'm saying. You don't have to be inhumane. All you need is to be Russians. That's all. That's the same thing. The Russians always, throughout their history, they were inhumane. They were enemies of civilizations, and for many years they plot to explode the world in order so okay we'll all die. So they view it as a great equalizer. Yes, West is very prosperous and rich, and probably has better armies and more nuclear warheads and everything else. But it comes an equalizer when it doesn't matter anymore. You're rich, you're poor, but you will all die in one day. So that all will be dealt with. That's what Russians are trying to do. And right now, it's probably the last opportunity for the West using the Ukrainian heroism, bravery to deal Russia a blow that will stop them in their tracks. And most likely, Russia will undergo the severe changes, including that there will be no single Russian state. It will all fall apart in 8, 9, 12 different smaller states. That's where the West and US goals has to be. Otherwise, it will be another 100 years of all the threats of the nuclear war, the thermonuclear war, and many other wars. Enough is enough.
So, Sasha, and with Ukraine, are there any Ukrainians either by region or by culture or whatever you want to, who want to be part of Russia, or no?
No.
Hey, Sasha, along those
Okay.
same lines, because I heard you make statements about the Russians and everything, and I was just wondering, is there any such thing as a good Russian now, or is there no Russians that are?
I'm just gonna say a dead Russian's a good Russian.
Yeah, it's a concept actually. It's quite alive in especially the immigrants population who Russians who live outside of Russia, primarily in Western Europe. So what they're saying is, look, okay, we are Russians, but we are against the war. We are against Putin, and therefore, not that we are good Russians. It's kind of very artificial and
Not necessarily, Sasha. There could be Russians who just are afraid to speak up. During Nazi Germany's rule, where they're shoving people, not just Jews, but people into ovens, what have you, there were Germans there who were saving lives, but they were doing it quietly. Not all
um,
Germans were Nazis.
I
So
have a problem with that. The problem is that if you are,
Schindler's List. There's plenty of them.
see, you are against the war. Let's say you are in Russia. Okay, you're against the war. You're against Putin and so on. You're for better world, for better Russia, and so on. But in the meantime, you are working, and you're working probably something that supplies weapons that will eventually kill you.
No, I get all that because you're supplying, you're helping the military. I get all that.
So you're supplying your knowledge, your work hours, and so on. You're paying taxes, and your taxes are going into supplying even more weapons to that will kill Ukrainians. So now you are in your mind. You're against Putin. You're against war. You're a good man, and you have family, and you're a wonderful person. In reality, everything what you're doing in 24 hours
I
is
get
so
that, Sasha.
important.
But they're children there below a certain age who have nothing to do with this. There are seniors there above a certain age who aren't working, who are not contributing to the war effort, but they
And
want to live.
No,
But
hold on,
they just
that's
hold
fine.
on.
But
No,
I'm not agitating that all Russians
no,
have to leave.
Sasha and
I'm
Lee,
not saying
no,
that.
Sasha
you've
and Lee,
also
hold on a
got
second, because there were definitely. I mean, a lot of people will think of abolitionists as being Northerners, but there were abolitionists in the South, and they definitely paid taxes and did
well,
things that contributed to that. So we're saying that abolitionists in the South were not necessarily fighting against slavery, because that's
no,
almost your
Mark,
argument and everything.
Mark,
And
the state,
very much,
even with
Mark.
the state, even with the whole Russian thing, because I mean, what Putin's doing is, I mean, he is a war criminal. The dude is horrible.
I'm not
But
condoning Putin.
you also have Navalny, who's trying his best to speak out against them, but he's being thrown in jail. He has a movement with him, but you have people that can't speak out the way he has. You have
So you're agreeing with me, Jacoby. There are people who are against it who happen to be Russian.
yes, yeah. I mean, I have, but like even Mirza, who or Karl Mirza or
Ramus,
Vladimir Mirza, who was poisoned twice, jailed for 25. So you have it. I don't know if it's as easy though to just
They're scared for their lives.
Yeah.
Right.
I would like to mention something very interesting thing that Navalny is perceived as a Russian hero in, especially in the West, and it's almost like uh, um, it's a prototype of next Russian leader, providing that he's alive. I'm not sure that he's going to be alive for long, but however, very interesting point of view voiced a couple of weeks ago. Famous former world chess champion Garry Kasparov, who is also quite
Very
active
famous.
in politics. Garry Kasparov blamed Navalny for his decision to return to Russia, where he was in Germany for more than a year or so on, and he returned to Russia, was immediately right at the airplane, which just landed in Moscow. He was arrested right there, took to jail, got now, I don't know, 30 years to jail or so on. So what he's saying is that Navalny had his chance in when Medvedev was a president, and there were a lot of demonstrations in Russia. I'm talking about a year 2011. And everybody, including Navalny, they were saying that, okay, we have to obey the rules. We have to go this way. Oh, it's a forbidden place. Okay, let's move to that way or so on. So he was very accommodating to Russian power. And that was the last time when the Russian people could actually overturn the government and get the power in their own hands. And Navalny is one who prevented that from going. And after that, Putin came back to power in 2012, and he started to go right into incredible autocracy and police state, and even worse than that. So right now, Navalny, his example. What example he's providing to the
Well,
people? Go to jail? What
No,
kind
I
of
think
example is that?
so. I mean, he continues to speak out against them, or had continued to speak out against them. That's why he was thrown in jail and stuff. But
It
then
was
on top of that, in 2000, I mean, when he spoke out as your example back in 2011, and then Putin comes into power, I don't know if he could predict that where we're going or where we are now. And just because he couldn't predict then where we are now, it's hard to condemn him. For example, in the state, one of the biggest calling cards for um, um, uh, the Republican Party and how their defense of Trump being pushing out racist propaganda and how the GOP push out racist propaganda. One of the biggest pushes is one, they talk about the KKK. Yes, the KKK was started up under the Democrat Party, but that was way, way back. And then they forget that the police department was started from the KKK as well. They forget to mention that part. But then they also forget to mention the Southern strategy, where in the civil rights movement, when that got pushed, that ended up, that was where the Klan and the white supremacists and those disenfranchised white individuals hated the fact that the Democrat Party was jumping on the civil rights movement. And so in the Southern strategy, the actual GOP and Nixon had come up with a plan to recruit those disenfranchised and upset white individuals. So basically, they recruited the Klan, the same group that they keep saying, well, the Democrat Party is racist. I bring up that example as an example to what you're talking about. Navalny may have spoken out way back when about following the rules and so on and so forth, but we can't forget what he's done since then and can't overlook that part.
Jadavi, he's done a lot of things. He said a lot of things. He published a lot of anti-corruption literature, and he's done incredible investigation of Russian corruption and so on. Okay, I'm not forgetting all that, except that right now he became not only irrelevant, he is becoming even worse than that, because you see, every leader of movement, of a party or whatever, he provides his own example to people what to do, how to do, and so on. So examples that now Navalny provides only that you have to come back to Russia, then you have to go to 30 years to jail. That's an example what Navalny today provides.
So, no,
Okay?
but what I'm saying is that example, you're just saying, well, his example is that you must go to jail, and he's telling everybody that you must go to jail. Well, he's still speaking out.
It
And
doesn't
still,
matter. If you're
and
in
also,
jail, and let's see if all his
so,
followers will
Sasha,
do exactly what Navalny did, they will all end up in jail. And
no,
Sasha,
could
what's it?
his
Sasha,
example,
what's the term?
could,
it.
could his
Sasha, what's the term
example
of
be,
refuse, Nick?
could his example be not that you must come back and go to jail, or could his example be, if you want your country, you have to fight for it, and this is what I'm doing to fight for it?
No, no, no. You cannot fight for your country while being in jail for
Of
30
course you
years.
can.
No, you can't. You're
Who's
out.
Sharansky? Well, for the audience, Sasha,
Today,
tell people who Sharansky is. Natan Sharansky.
it's a different time.
Hey
It's a
guys, it's Steve
completely
Brown. I just
different
jumped in.
agenda. Don't try to compare Sharansky, because Sharansky, uh, you it sounds really strange, but somebody
Sasha,
doing it
Sasha,
very mindful of the world's opinion and so
deep breath,
on. And
guys.
they were doing some uh, unpopular inside the country things that to appease the world society and so on. Not today's Russia. They don't care about what world society is thinking about the Navalny or
Sasha,
Trump
hold on a
or
second.
anybody else.
Sasha,
They
no,
completely
hold on a second. I got to give you two examples because they one of them wrote a letter from the jail and everything. But did not Dr. Martin Luther King spend some time in jail? Did not Nelson Mandela spend some time in jail? So
Some
to
time
say
in
that you
jail, a
cannot
lot of time.
If,
leadership and that
if
you can't
that's
lead a revolution from the jail is not
a
true.
different times. You don't understand that both US and South Africa, they were parts of the world society in a different way. Of course, I can't compare US and South Africa, but still, they both were a part of the world society. Not Russia. Russia is isolated, not even evil empire. Reagan, who invented the
So,
concept of Russia being
Sasha,
or USSR evil empire, today it's 100 times worse
Sa-
than Soviet Union in times of Reagan.
so Sasha, I think right there is where you're making our point stronger. You're saying that Russia is isolated, and Russia is isolating, and you have Putin's control and dominant views over everything, which makes it tougher for those to speak out, which makes it tougher for those quote unquote good Russians who are against the war to stand up and fight because you're saying they're so isolated
Okay,
that this one dominant individual over top is controlling everything. So if you speak out,
yeah,
what's going to happen if you don't go to your job because you assume that your taxes are going to this? What's going to happen to you? You'll end up being killed, poisoned, and so on and so forth. So what you're saying, them being isolated, that actually strengthens and bolsters our point.
Jitovi, you're very eloquent, but it doesn't change anything that you're 100% wrong. And I'll explain to you why I think so. Remember that these so-called good Russians, they are all well-to-do, and some of them extremely well-to-do immigrants who are in the West. There is no connection between this group of people, which, by the way, include Gary Kasparov and Khodorkovsky and all the other leaders of so-called good Russians, with the people who are staying inside Russia, who are absolutely poor, most of them uneducated, and they are hardly can survive. Now, coming back to Navalny. Navalny is irrelevant to both of these groups, people outside of Russia and people inside Russia, because while in jail, he is irrelevant. Whatever he writes or whatever he can publish, if he can publish anything at all, it's irrelevant. It doesn't bring any food on the table. It doesn't provide any blueprint of actions for people. He cannot do
Hey,
that for
hey,
obvious reasons, or
hey,
so on. So
Sasha.
it's all
Sasha,
waste
but
completely.
you
Sasha, hold on
have
a second. Let me make it parallel because there is a group of people we that actually just lost a leader. I'm not saying that I respected him and everything because actually I had some problems with the gentleman that I'm getting ready to mention and everything. But there is no doubt that the evangelist is a powerful voice and a powerful thing and everything in that space, and they have some elitists in their ranks as well. So if I'm hearing your argument, you're saying that you can't have that kind of mixture and everything. But we've seen that even with the evangelical right, and that was something that Pat Robertson actually kind of created. So there were a lot of those people that were very much in that evangelical and elite space as well. Am I not right, Jacoby?
yeah, I mean, there's that, but I wouldn't even make that parallel because it's not all high ranking, high paying, these super rich people that are, the ones that whatever. But no, I mean, you have Russian soldiers that are defecting. Are you saying those Russian soldiers that are defecting and protest against the war aren't good Russians as well? Are you saying that those people who are trying to escape Russia but cannot and trying to defect, those aren't good Russians, even though they're being blocked?
Listen, Jacobi, I just started when I first said good Russians. I said that it's a very artificial term, and it doesn't mean much. It doesn't explain anything because people who are against Putin and against the war, most of them are outside of Russia. Most of them are well-to-do people, and you can call them good Russians. I have no problem with that. Now, people who are stay inside of Russia. Am I saying that they're all bad Russians? Absolutely not. A lot of people have sick parents and they cannot move, or they have no means, including financials, to move elsewhere. Yeah, so they're staying, and I'm not saying that they're bad Russians. Now, how they can be a good Russians? I have no idea, because if they're working, and as I said before, and they're paying taxes, and they're supplying all kind of widgets for the Russians to kill more Ukrainians, I don't know how that could qualify them as good Russians. Are they bad Russians? Are they not so bad and not so good Russians? I'm not interested even to qualify that at all. I think
Well,
all Russian
So,
citizens,
ooh,
there is a collective responsibility for this war, same as the Germans have responsibility for Second World
Sasha, but not all Germans
War.
were Nazis.
It's not, but the nation. I'm not talking at any kid who was born maybe a month before the end of the war.
hold on.
But as a nation, Germans had responsibilities, and they were paying.
They were no righteous Germans during the war.
Wait, Lee, hold on,
I'm
hold on.
saying is a
We gotta-
nation. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about
But we are.
nation.
We've hit. Hold on, before we even get there, we've actually hit an agreement point, and Sasha, you've actually moved towards the point that we were making from the start, because you had started with everybody in Russia is bad. Now you're actually to the point where you're saying that you're not quantifying them or qualifying them as good or bad, but you can understand that there are some who are stuck there because their parents are sick. Well, that fits in that category. If their parents are sick, they've still got to work and get their money because they've got to help their parents. But hold on, we've hit a good point. Let's stay on
Progress.
a good point. And Steve is here. We're gonna let Steve take off.
Jacoby, hallelujah.
yeah, yeah,
Hallelujah.
I don't want to rain on your parade, but let me tell you this. Even those that you're saying are not so bad Russians, maybe they're not good Russians either. I'm talking about collective responsibility. Like all Germans, some Germans hated Hitler, but they were still continued to work, including concentration camps and so on. So what I'm telling you, it's a collective responsibility of all Germans, those who love Hitler and hate Hitler. It doesn't matter. Even Red Army in 1945 moved to Germany. They raped 1.5 million German women, and they raped those girls who loved Hitler and who hated Hitler. It's a collective responsibility. The Russian people who love Putin, who hate Putin, who love war, who hate war, they will be all paying for this, what just happened,
Sasha,
for next 55
the
years.
example you gave, Sasha, with the soldiers raping the women, you're condemning them, and I agree with you, based on their behavior, not based on their place of birth. And that's very dangerous when we stereotype people based on their nationality or where they happen to be living.
Exactly. So therefore, the separation should be those Russian soldiers should be the ones that you should collectively be mad at, and not all the Russian people.
Collective responsibility.
Oh, come.
That's
Here-
it. Where is this
Yes,
Jordan, where is
Sasha.
this Russian soldiers are coming from? They're coming from normal families who had their family dinners and who go to churches or so on, and then they're coming to Ukraine to kill people.
Sasha, should we blame you for what the Canadian Army does?
Sorry?
Should we blame Sasha Starr for what the Canadian Army does?
What Canadian Army does?
Anything the Canadian government does, or the Army does, or military, anything in Canada, we should blame the citizens such as Sasha Starr. You have blood on your hands?
Lee,
Well,
here's even better. Sasha,
Qualify. You have to qualify that something happened on the level of war crimes. When
here's
one nation commits a war crime, all
here's an even
nations
better
are
one.
responsible.
Here's an even better one, Sasha. So should we just take everything you say as a joke because Rob Ford, the governor who died out of Canada, was a clown? So should we say every Canadian is a clown?
Probably.
You can say, be my guest. I mean,
Well, hey,
No, but that's what you're doing to the Russian people.
hey, Toby, I got a better one. Should we blame Sasha for the fires
because
from
of
Canada?
Trump, should we say that all
That's a good
American
point, Mark. Sasha.
criminals? I don't think so.
No, but that's what we're saying. We can't say the same thing because Putin is a war criminal. We can't say every Russian is a war criminal. That's not fair.
But,
to the Russian people.
but neither Ford, not even Trump, they took nation to work against the other independent nation. They never done that. Don't be a clown yourself, Jatovi. Okay, think before you talk, think a little bit, okay?
Can we welcome
do.
Steve to
I
the
need
podcast
you
today?
to.
And Steve, it's time for you to do a closeout. By the way, I do have a question really quickly for you, Lee, and we can go to it on
Sure.
tomorrow. But I think you're a psychic because you've oftentimes, when we talked about gun control, have asked about the knives, and there was a knife attack in France. So we'll have to talk about that on tomorrow's.
That's
segment.
horrible. Horrible.
But there was also a mass shooting in the U.S. So
That's true. Lee,
Steve,
Steve, close it out. It's your time to close out and say hello.
Yeah. I'm sorry I'm late today. I'm at the. Tomorrow we're gonna talk about Joe Biden's veto of the his proposal to extend student
loan, yeah.
and then we're going to also talk about the wildfires and the haze that we're seeing here, even in North Carolina. And Pat Robertson just died, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And today I'm at the Opioid Summit in Durham, North Carolina. And we'll talk a little bit about what I've observed in this conference hosted by the National Association of North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. 8 people a day die in North Carolina. There's been 720,000 opioid deaths, or even more than that since 1999. And there's a lot of money coming in from the settlements that our Attorney General Josh Stein, who I was actually with last night hosting an event for his run for governor in Morrisville. And there's a lot of money coming in. So we're going to talk about the opioid crisis and what does it mean for the health of our nation. It's become an epidemic now, and it's very scary. So thank
Steve,
you.
are you speaking of the lawsuit with the Purdue and the Sackett family?
Yep, the federal, all kinds of pharmaceutical settlements, and the money's come in, and now they're trying to help out, in terms of the money's going to the counties and the cities and some to the state for prevention, community help. There's even some pieces I'm working on technology. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. But I want to thank you all for letting me be here. I'll be here tomorrow morning and busy getting ready for the India visit. And I'll be attending the White House and a couple of other events around it. But we'll see. It's going to be a busy few weeks. But thank you all so much, and be safe wherever you are.
No problem.
Great show today, guys. See you guys tomorrow. God bless.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.